What's happening, guys? Mr. Roosh here, and today we're talking about lipids. And you may not have heard that word lipid before, but we've all seen lipids. We see them in the form of fats, oils, and waxes. Those are all lipids. The building block of lipids are fatty acids, and we've already talked about that, okay? So remember, when we talked about carbohydrates, the building block of carbohydrates were monosaccharides, and they made carbs, okay, carbs. Well, for lipids, the monomer is fatty acids. And they make lipids. Okay? So let me go over real quick the last video that you guys watched. So, actually, let's go over this real quick. Let's pretend I give you a few dollars. And you take those few dollars, and you're quickly going to spend it. You could go shopping, you could go to the gas station, buy a few snacks. That money is going to be gone quickly. However, if I give you lots and lots and lots of money, more than you know what to do with, more than you could possibly spend, eventually you're going to have to wise up and take that money and store it into the bank. Okay? So when we talk about food, if you eat a little bit of starch, that little bit of starch is going to end up as glycogen in your liver and in your muscles. However, if you consume lots and lots of starch and lots of simple sugars, okay, a lot of sweets, it's going to go to your muscles and to your liver as glycogen, but the excess is going to have to get stored as fat, okay, or as lipids. And this is one lipid that we're going to talk about. This is called a triglyceride, okay? But now the reasoning for this is it's the same reason why you put money into your bank account. You can't spend it right now, so you save it for a later time. Well, our bodies have adapted to where if we can't use this energy right now, because remember, carbohydrates are fast energy, if we can't use it right now, our body's going to store it. And fat, or the lipids in our body, is stored energy. Okay? And that's what we're talking about today. So first, the building block of lipids are fatty acids. Okay? What is the function? Well, the first and primary function that I want you guys to know is lipids are stored energy. Carbohydrates were fast energy. There are several other functions of lipids, though. We use insulation to help regulate our body temperature. It actually makes our cell membranes, okay? So the layer around all of our cells is actually made up of different lipids. We have steroid hormones. You may have heard this before. Steroid medicines, if anybody's ever had an asthma problem, the doctor might hook you up to a respirator and we'll say this is a steroid. What all that means is that it has a cholesterol. So steroid hormones have cholesterol. And that's all that word means. Some examples of lipids. Number one, fats, oils, and waxes. You guys have seen these in your daily life. I'm sure there's butter in your fridge, oil in your cabinets, and you probably have some candles at your house. Those are all examples of lipids that we see daily. Some other ones that we may not think about. Number one, we have a triglyceride. Break that word down, triglyceride. Tri meaning the word or the number 3. Well, we have 3 fatty acids, 1, 2, and 3. And then glyceride, because it's bound or attached to a glycerol backbone. And if you guys think back to dehydration synthesis, every time one of these fatty acids bonds to the glycerol, we're actually going to have a water leave the bond site, and these are going to be connected, okay? And when our body uses this, we're going to use water to break this bond site, okay? So this is still relevant to dehydration synthesis and hydrolysis. Another example, let me get this ink out of the way. Another example that I want you guys to know, and we're going to talk more about these next two later, are phospholipids and cholesterol. Both of these are relevant because these are the 2 fats that make up our cell membranes. So when we talk about cells, we're going to cover these 2 a little more. But I want you guys to notice this. This right here is a phosphate, which we talked about in nucleotides. There's a phosphate here, and then we have 2 fatty acids right here, okay? So go ahead and take note of this page, and let's go ahead and move on. So here's to show you the cells. If you were to zoom in on a little section of that cell membrane, you would see that that whole thing is made up of phospholipids. Okay, you have the phosphate head, and then you have 2 fatty acid tails. And there's also cholesterol that's wedged in there. And I think cholesterol gets a bad rap. A lot of people think cholesterol is 100% poison and completely bad for you. Well, actually, we need it. It's in all of our cells. Every single cell of your body has cholesterol wedged in there. And the reasoning for that is it helps to give our cell membrane some stability, kind of keeps it rigid. The problem is, if there's too much cholesterol wedged in there, so let's say we have an excess of cholesterol, then our cells begin to get too hard, okay? But we do need to have cholesterol. And the primary lipid of our cell membrane are the phospholipids, okay? And there we go, phospholipids and cholesterol. Here's a little connection to help you visualize what I mean by stored energy. So let's say we have a snack, right, or a meal, and it's just loaded and loaded and loaded with carbohydrates. It's loaded with fast energy, okay, because that's what carbohydrates are, fast energy. Well, those simple sugars directly hit our blood. I mean, super quick. And we get high blood sugar. You may have heard that term before. What's going to happen is some of those carbohydrates are going to go to our liver and our muscle, and they're going to get stored as glycogen, just like we saw before. Okay, and again, the process of binding those glucose molecules together is dehydration synthesis. But now, what about the rest? The energy that we need to save for later, well, that's simply going to go to our fat tissue. And it's not going to stay as a carbohydrate. It's going to turn into triglycerides, okay? It's going to turn into triglycerides. So you didn't eat the triglycerides, you ate carbohydrates. Now, why did your body turn it into triglycerides? Because that's our stored energy. It's like the bank account, okay? We're going to save that energy for a later use, okay? So a quick recap, this is the highlights of what I want you to know. Lipids, their monomer, their building block are fatty acids, okay? The function is stored energy. That's the main one that I want you to know. It makes our cell membranes and also hormones. Those are called steroid hormones. Why are they called steroid? Because that means they have cholesterol as their backbone. Okay? Examples of lipids, fats, oils, and waxes. Those are the big ones you guys see every day. The ones you may not be too familiar with are the triglycerides. That's what happens when we eat too much carbohydrates. We have phospholipids, and we have cholesterol, and that makes our cells. Okay, that makes our cell membranes. Okay, that's it for the lipids. Now we're actually going to go into the next one. The next one that we're going to cover are proteins. Okay, and you may have heard athletes and people that like to work out, they like to consume a lot of proteins. And here's why. It's because we are made up of proteins. That's the main component of our body. That's the main molecule in our body is actually proteins, okay? So let's go into this real quick. The monomer for proteins are amino acids, okay? So let's go back over here. Some sources of proteins you may think of would be eggs, meat, fish, dairy, and then obviously any supplements, okay? So what's the building block of those proteins? Well, it's the amino acids. And remember, there's 20 different amino acids total. This part is important. I want you to highlight it. The order and sequence of those amino acids determines the protein's shape. Now, proteins look very funky. They kind of look like coiled string on a balloon, okay? This is actually what a protein looks like. It's really weird looking. But it has that shape because of the order and the combination of the amino acids. And that allows the protein to fold in on itself, and it makes the shape. The shape is what allows the protein to do its job. Okay, so this shape is actually very, very important. So let's say I have a chain of amino acids, okay, and I just link these amino acids together in a straight chain, what will end up happening is it'll start to coil around and form this shape right here, okay? So the shape of the protein determines its job. The reason why proteins work is because of their shape. So some functions of proteins. Number one, they provide structure. So what are some examples of that? That would be your hair, skin, and nails. Okay, those are all made up of proteins. Another big function of proteins is they catalyze, and that word actually means to speed up. To speed up chemical reactions. That's your metabolism. So remember I showed you guys that crazy picture of your metabolism? You got to have vitamins, you got to have minerals, but those vitamins and minerals work with special proteins. Those proteins, and actually I want you to write this down, those special proteins for our metabolism are called enzymes. And we're going to talk a lot about enzymes another time, okay? And they're literally molecular machines, okay? They do all of the work in our body and in our cells. And proteins make you. You are primarily made up of proteins. Some examples, there's a major protein called keratin that's found in your hair, skin, and nails. Enzymes, those are the special proteins that speed up your metabolism, and they need vitamins and minerals to function. They also make peptide hormones. Those are other signaling molecules that are slightly different than these steroid hormones. Where the steroid hormones were cholesterol-based, these ones are protein-based, and we call them peptides, okay? So let's make a connection back to our food again. So let's say we take this whey protein shake, we eat some eggs, and we have some meat. Essentially what we're consuming is lots and lots of animal protein. And I want you guys to think of it like that. Okay, I know this is a very, very complicated picture, but think of it just like this. Sequence of amino acids that's folded in on itself. Well, through hydrolysis, again, we're going back to that process. We're going to break those the protein down into individual amino acids. Those amino acids are going to hit our blood. After they go to our blood, our body is going to use those amino acids to make whatever else we need. It could be used to make hair, our muscles, our skin, our nails, other enzymes, but it's going to take those amino acids, rearrange them into their specific combination and shape, and make this specific protein, okay? So this would be a protein found in your muscle. This would be keratin, the protein found in your hair. So let's go over that one more time. We eat lots and lots of this animal protein. Through hydrolysis, our body breaks it down into single amino acids. That goes into our blood. Our body will take whatever we need, and actually through dehydration synthesis, we'll link them all together and fold that protein to the structures that we need and where we need it, okay? So what you should know after watching this video on proteins, the monomer, the building block of proteins, are amino acids. The function is mainly structure, hair, skin, and nails, okay? They catalyze chemical reactions. Those are the enzymes that we'll talk about a lot more later. And when I say catalyze chemical reactions, I'm referring to your metabolism. Okay? And they are the molecular machines. They make you, and they do all of the work in your cells. Okay? Some examples: hair, skin, and nails. Some enzymes, and some hormones. And those hormones were called peptide hormones. Okay? I know that was a lot of information, guys, but please make sure you take notes on the slides with the pencils. And I'll catch you all next time. Adios.